What is gravity?
You have no idea. Okay, next question.
Because if the whole universe was indeed a vacuum-filled environment of space, as our schools and governments and TVs and movies constantly brainwash us, and if our Earth was truly a tiny speck of dust floating through this mysterious void of total darkness, then every living and non-living matter on this Earth would have been completely consumed by this powerful force of cosmological vacuum. Exactly like shown in these small demonstrations. If you put a smaller object in a much bigger space that's full of vacuum, or rather a space in a total void of air, then the entirety of the smaller object will be thoroughly affected and damaged by this incredible force of surrounding vacuum. In other words, Earth would never escape the predatory force of the surrounding vacuum of ever-expanding universe of space, period. Not only that, the constant spinning of the Earth would create ginormous amount of inertia and momentum. Just as demonstrated in these small examples of spinning objects, whether in a liquid or a solid form, everything that was once peacefully sitting on the surface of these objects would suddenly start to spring out in all directions, due to this incredible force of centrifugal or centripetal force generated from the rapid spinning of circular movements. And obviously, the faster the object spins, the faster and further everything will shoot out, and vice versa. Also, as you can see in these small merry-go-round footages, the power of inertia from centrifugal or centripetal force is not to be taken lightly. If just a little bit of spin of these playground toys can throw people around like toothpicks, then imagine what the accumulated force of inertia would be on a giant bald planet that's constantly spinning at the speed of sound, while orbiting around a distant sun and the galactic center at unfathomable speed and acceleration, non-stop, 24/7, all year round. Can you imagine the total sum of planetary inertia from all the constant self-spinning, and the constant spinning around the sun, and the whole solar system constantly spinning around the galactic center? Would just be stupidly enormous and gargantuan that nothing on this earth would be able to remain still, nor keep their foot on the ground, not even for a nanosecond. And these ridiculous amount of combined planetary inertia, coupled with another powerful layer of unfathomable force of the surrounding vacuum of space, would certainly make our Earth not the most pleasant environment for any life to settle and flourish. It would simply be one madly spinning, vacuum-sucking living hell for all matters on Earth. And this ain't no rocket science. This is just common sense. They are all straight to one who understands, and right to those who find knowledge. Proverbs chapter 8 verse 9. But of course, right about now, some of you are saying, hey, what about gravity? This mysterious force of nature that acts like a giant magnet, holding all living and non-living matters tightly onto the surface of the earth, so nothing can escape or get sucked into the vastness of the space. Well, isn't that just super convenient? A magical force so unspeakably powerful that it can completely neutralize and nullify all the unfathomable force of the surrounding vacuum of the cosmos, at the same time completely canceling out, again, all the unfathomable force of the planetary inertia constantly being generated by the Earth's crazy rotation and even crazier orbital dance moves around the galaxy. And of course, our top institutions and experts are stubbornly insisting that it is because of this powerful force of gravity, all the atmosphere, all the water, all the land, and basically all life on Earth are being safely protected and securely fastened to their rightful places without ever being affected, not even to the slightest, by these huge planet-obliterating forces acting upon the entire Earth. Tja, okay. Then just what kind of monster of a force is this? So, you mean to tell me that this monstrous force of gravity is so incomparably mega powerful that it simply kills off any and all cosmological forces affecting the entire Earth? Then, it gently applies its mysteriously magical power to all those several hundred billion and trillion tons of water in this world, so they can stick nice and tightly onto the giant rotating surface of the Earth. While giving them just enough room so they can casually flow and move around their due courses throughout the entire geography of the Earth, some of them creating huge violent waves, while others remaining calm and still. And while gravity is applying its hard pull or hard push of all this giant body of water tightly onto the surface of the Earth, somehow it's allowing all kinds of small and big fish and other sea life to swim around peacefully underwater. Yet, at the same time, letting the smallest canoes to medium-sized boats to huge container ships to float on top of water and gracefully slide off to travel great distances as well. Gravity also seems to take extra care of the lightest matter in the world, such as air, gas, smoke, moisture, and clouds, so they can rise up towards the sky and stay afloat and just hang in midair. However, letting rain, snow, and hail to fall straight down to the ground. So, you're telling me that the only reason why all matters of different size, weight, and density on Earth are being safely protected and firmly grounded in a totally stable and a peaceful environment is because, behind closed doors, this mysterious force of gravity, apparently our ultimate superhero, is viciously fighting against the monstrous evil power of the vacuum of space that's constantly trying to consume everything on Earth, while simultaneously fighting against the unspeakable force of planetary inertia from all those crazy spinning and orbital movements, which again is constantly trying to spit out everything on Earth out into space? Really? That's the reason? And in the middle of all this madness, fighting the lonely fight against all odds of these inescapable physics and principles of nature, but of course, winning every single battle for every second of the literal life or death situation for all life on Earth, somehow gravity finds time and generosity to give us just enough room so all these small insects, birds, kites, drones, and helicopters, and even airplanes can casually take off the ground and just fly off to navigate their ways in the sky. At the same time, letting all kinds of animals and humans to walk, run, and sometimes jump around in complete oblivion without ever getting brutally damaged or crushed by this monstrous force of gravity, or any other immense cosmological forces constantly acting upon all of our bodies, even at this very second that I'm talking to you right now. These super-sensitive bodies of us humans, by the way, that can immediately detect and react even to the smallest shift and change in speed, movement, direction, acceleration, deceleration, and the overall inertia and momentum, whether we are on a bike, or on a fishing boat, or in a moving train, in a subway, in a car, in a bus, or in an airplane, we can pretty much feel everything. Again, if there is even the tiniest bit of change in inertia and motion that's affecting our whole body. So, if all these unfathomable and unspeakable cosmological forces of nature, such as the gravity and the planetary inertia and the vacuum of space, are constantly clashing into each other, trying to counterbalance and cancel each other out 24/7 all year round, then how come these super-sensitive bodies of ours never feel a single jerk or shake that would most certainly impact the entire quote-unquote spaceship of the Earth and everything that's riding on it, huh? Think about it. I mean, does any of this make any sense to you at all? O Timothy, keep that which is committed to thy trust, avoiding profane and vain babblings, and oppositions of science falsely so called. 1 Timothy chapter 6 verse 20. So the truth of the matter is, much like we have no idea about our deepest ocean, and much like we have no idea about our deepest underground, we basically have zero idea about what's really going on high up in our heavens. Because we simply cannot go any higher than around 30 to 40 miles, that's 48 to 65 kilometers of altitude, due to a near vacuum layer of atmosphere starting from that point on, where no kind of jet nor rocket engines can ever function at all. Not to mention, this is the point where most unmanned weather balloons tend to pop and start their downfall. Hast thou perceived the breadth of the earth? Declare if thou knowest it all. Job chapter 38, verse 16 and 18. And it is precisely because we know so little about the world we live in. The kings and leaders of our crooked world are constantly selling us the exact opposite of an idea that they know so much about everything, that they're getting so close to attaining the true power and knowledge to manipulate and clone and even create life or artificial life from scratch, giving us the perpetual illusion that science and technology are the keys to unlocking all the mysteries and wonders of life and creation. So we the people will eventually end up doing whatever they deem as valuable and worthy, ultimately making us idolize only their system of knowledge and technology, and ultimately making us fear only their system of justice and hierarchy, and ultimately making us surrender and worship only their religion of more gold, more greed, and more self-love. All because of the wanton lust of a prostitute, alluring the mistress of sorceries, who enslaved nations by her prostitution, and peoples by her witchcraft. I am against you, declares the Lord Almighty. I will lift your skirts over your face. I will show the nations your nakedness, and the kingdoms your shame. Nahum chapter 3, verse 4 and 5. Indeed, a great shame is already upon all the witchcraft and sorceries that's been blinding our heart and soul for decades. But the people of nations are slowly beginning to see the naked truth of this so-called scientific culture of today's world, which is becoming more and more outrageous and pathetic as a thick veil of deceit and trickery are being pulled over its own face. See, the thing is, our Earth as a whole is much like a giant layer cake of different density and matter, as matters with the highest or the heaviest density are placed in the lower bottom layers of the Earth, such as incredibly heavy and dense soil of rocks, and oil, and molten lava, while matters with the lowest or the lightest density are placed on the top layers of the Earth, such as air, moisture, clouds, and gas, and of course, the lightest layer of all, the near vacuum layer of atmosphere, sitting at the very top, penthouse floor if you will. And whether you're looking at the entire layers of atmosphere, or the entire layers of ocean water, or the entire layers of the Earth's crust, this perfectly synchronized order of the lighter matter floating on top and the heavier matter sinking to the bottom is universally identical. And this is exactly why, when all the heavy ocean waters are nicely stuck onto the surface of the Earth, even the smallest air and gas bubbles can still rise up straight towards the sky, defying all the supposed force of quote-unquote gravity, and ignoring all the immense weight of ocean water pressing down at the same time. And this is why heavy boats and ships can still stay afloat on top of water without sinking, and why both small insects and large airplanes can again defy quote-unquote gravity and casually fly around in midair. A real everyday phenomena that destroys all concepts of gravity, yet completely satisfies the simple principles of density. So all this simply means that we're living in a total environment which systematically divides and separates lower density from higher density, lighter materials from heavier materials, and thus drawing a distinct line between what's above and what's below, up and down, top and bottom, and perhaps heaven and earth. But as you can imagine, there can be no such concept of up and down or top and bottom on a round spherical ball that's rapidly spinning constantly. Think about it. Not to mention there could be no such concept of stability, nor serenity, nor preservation, nor order and peace on a rapidly rotating ball that's also racing around some imaginary circuit at mind-boggling speed and acceleration all year round. It'll be like spinning and shaking this snow globe as fast as you can, all day, every day, non-stop. Then what do you think would happen to all the stuff that's inside the snow globe? A constant state of apocalyptic chaos for sure. And this certainly does not represent the calm and peaceful environment of our world, and most of all, preserving this perfect layer cake structure of all matters on Earth would simply be impossible. So, the only logical and conceivable way to sustain and preserve all these layers of different density and matter, nicely and calmly stacked on top of each other in perfect working order is, just like these images of glass tubes filled with colorful liquids of different density, the whole system must be placed inside of a non-moving and a well-contained environment to prevent different layers from mingling around and getting all mixed up, creating chaos and ultimately eradicating the entire purpose and function of each other. Plus, the entire system would have to be safely protected and securely enclosed by a strong and robust outer shell of some sort, especially if you want to protect and contain those extremely light and delicate layers of atmosphere in its original shape, form, and structure. And most importantly, this would be the only way to sustain a near vacuum layer of atmosphere peacefully sitting at the very top of all other layers of the Earth, without inflicting too great of an influence or damage upon all kinds of life thriving and flourishing down below. And it is precisely because we're not being greatly affected by these near vacuum layers on top, we can logically conclude that 1. These near vacuum layers are most definitely not part of some infinitely expanding universe that's engulfing the entire Earth as a whole. If that was the case, none of us would be here. 2. Then the total thickness and volume of these near vacuum layers must not be greater than the total sum of all the other layers of air, water, and land that are peacefully coexisting and stacked up in perfect order below. Kind of like this image here. Then, with all things considered in the most logical and sensible fashion as possible, a giant molten glass type of dome surrounding the entire system of Earth would not only be perfectly fitting, but the most reasonable and appropriate solution. Wouldn't you agree?
Is that the Earth is a closed system. We cannot leave the Earth. There's no place to go. There's no place to throw your trash.
Sometimes a bad boy cries, sometimes a good girl lies to get what she wants.
I may be wrong, of course. Always may be wrong.
I'm not afraid to try.